Chris, what is our fifth main topic today?
This is from Armond Wrenn. My brother saw the first 2 episodes of the new Lord of the Rings show, Rings of Power, and completely loved it. Saw that all the first reviews are out now, and they sound just as good, calling it magnificent and redefining what television can be. And Tolkien fans will be thrilled. And stuff like that. I know you've been really looking forward to the show, so what do you think about the early reviews coming out? Thanks.
All right, Armand, thanks a lot for sending that in. And yeah, everybody knows that ever since they announced this show 4 or 5 years ago, I can't remember how long ago it was, this has been my number one most anticipated thing coming to television. Been very, very excited about it. I've really liked the trailers, with the exception of the trailer they dropped yesterday. I love the footage in it. I just didn't think it was a very good, I didn't think it was a well put together trailer. But that being as it is, very, very excited about this show. Super stoked to see what's coming. I actually got a call from a friend of mine yesterday who was one of the people that watched it. And they know I'm very excited about it. And they said to me, John, you are going to lose your shit, is what they said to me. Now, the one warning they gave me was they said, you got to understand, keep in mind, this is a Tolkien world. There's a lot of world building to do. And so while all the main stories there, you might find it a little bit slow. That's the one warning he gave me. You might find the first 2 episodes a little bit slow, but it's all world building they're doing. It's incredible. So I said, all right. Well, my friend wasn't the only one, because the first reviews and reactions for it, the review embargo lifted for it, or the reaction embargo and lifted for it. And I hunted, Rob. I hunted to try to find a negative one. Not one. Not one negative one.
That's good.
And they all actually sound pretty good. So let's take a second here and go through a bunch of the reactions and the things that people drop. So the big outlet, The Wrap, wrote the following. The Rings of Power's gigantic scope and ambition are unrivaled on TV. But I'm very encouraged with the first 2 Rings of Power episodes overall. Each pocket of civilization they visit puts forth a new perspective and mythical culture wonders. Straightforward plot mixed with starry eyes. Critics' Choice member Preston Barla writes, The Rings of Power is truly an impressive feat. All the money is on the screen through its impeccable production design, costumes, and effects, manages to wield the power of Tolkien's fantastic world building while making unique and stunning touches of its own. Wonderful character work, too. That's good to hear. I like hearing this good character work. The movie podcast wrote, Rings of Power is cinematic excellence. The scale of the story has never been done before, making each moment epic and breathtaking. The marriage between practical and computer-generated effects will set the standard for everything that follows. Daniel Baptista writes, The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power is an achievement in cinematic storytelling that redefines what's possible for television. Immersive and epic. The interconnected worlds of Tolkien feel grand and fully realized, absolutely memorizing. Sci-Fi Wire's Vanessa Armstrong writes, I've seen the first 2 episodes of Rings of Power. Yes, it's as visually stunning as the trailer promises. It also sets the stage well for a clearly epic tale heading our way. I like some characters / storylines more than others, but I'm hooked and I'm ready for more. Deciders Alex Zalbin writes, I've seen the first 2 episodes of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. It is stunningly gorgeous to look at, and the score is beautiful. I know I've been wondering about that. What's the music? It's going to live up to Alan Shore's. It also takes a while to get going. Maybe that's what my friend meant when they said it's a little bit slow. It also takes a while to get going, and there's a lot going on. But for fans of the movies, it'll take you right back at points once it's rolling. Our friend Perry Nemiroff writes, the 2 episodes of Rings of Power are in, and so far, so good. The production value is pretty remarkable. One breathtaking visual after the next, and the level of detail in the costumes and production design is something else. As for the story / characters, these episodes have lots of work to do, introducing key places and players. Most make an impression quickly, but the biggest winners were, okay, help me with the names here. Nazanin Boniades, Bronwyn, and Markella Kavanaugh's Nori. Especially impressed with how much they were able to share in their passion and goals in just 2 episodes. Carrie Lane Perry writes, let's scroll down a bit. These episodes have lots of work to do, introducing key places and players. Most make an impression quickly, but the biggest winners for me. Oh, sorry. I think I accidentally pasted in Perry's thing. Sorry, I missed out on that. All right, next one. The New York Post writes, The Rings of Power. So I've seen the first 2 episodes. I had been skeptical, but I was very pleasantly surprised. It is actually good, very good. Visuals and tone are just right. In my opinion, a great addition to the Tolkien world. Discussing film rights. And the first 2 episodes of The Rings of Power are, so far, very great. The trailers have already shown how the show's brilliant visual spectacle. The seeds are planted for a rich and intriguing story that left me wanting more. CGM Magazine writes, hey, I can finally say I've seen the first 2 episodes now of The Rings of Power. As a fan of the Lord of the Rings lore, I found it outstanding and left me longing for more. The wait between episodes is going to be excruciating. Andrew Salazar writes, I can now say that I've seen the first 2 episodes of Lords of the Rings of Power. They are as cinematic as fantasy can be on TV. Feels made especially for Tolkien fans and is as epic as Lord of the Rings should be. It's pretty good, what we're hearing. Now, again, just because all these particular, and there were more, we didn't want to take a half hour going through everything. Just because these particular individuals enjoyed it doesn't mean that I will, doesn't mean that you will, whatever. But I mean, you'd rather come out hearing that everybody is loving it so far and wanting more. And now, again, these are just the first 2 episodes. Maybe they are as great as everybody's saying they are. And then maybe it goes off a cliff. Again, I liked the first episode of Obi-Wan. I loved the first episode of Obi-Wan. And then we know how I felt about it after that. So maybe that's what'll happen here. But I love hearing this. I love hearing that people weren't just gushing about the visuals, because we all knew the visuals were going to be great. This is the most expensive film television show in the history of the medium by miles. So we knew it was going to look good. But I love the fact that we're hearing people talk about laying groundwork of the mythology, the character development, all these story threads being laid. That's the part to me that is very, very exciting, despite the fact that my friend in 1 or 2 of even these then says, hey, it takes a bit to get going. It's slower. That part concerns me a little bit, to be honest with you. But hey, I love reading what I'm reading. Hey guys, we want to take a second to thank the sponsor of this video, Ryan Reynolds, and specifically his delightful company, Mint Mobile. So look, after years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't a catch. And guys, this is no joke. I have been using Mint Mobile for months now. And on top of the fact that I'm spending literally about 1/3 every month of what I was spending on my former major carrier, I've discovered no decline in my service. I kept my phone number and I was able to keep my phone. The switch from my old service to Mint Mobile couldn't have been easier and saved me more money. And the best part for anybody who just hates their phone bills is that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. All of their plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. Rob, you're hearing all the responses we're getting so far. I'm going to see this thing on Wednesday night, which I'm very stoked about. But what do you think about what we're hearing?
Well, you know, as a lifelong fan of science fiction, fantasy, and horror, a lot of my life was spent watching things that weren't very good. there was things that are, and the fantasy,
it's true.
The fantasy genre itself. I mean, I remember when the Lord of the Rings animated movie came out. We got half of that. It was kind of like, and then you'd get things like Dragon Slayer, and that was fine, or Krull. And the fantasy genre was never, because the technology really didn't exist to realize those worlds the way you'd want to see them realized. And then the storylines were rather generic. I mean, look, even when Ridley Scott did Legend, Tim Curry's Darkness is one of still the greatest physical creature design I think ever done. When we got to see Lord of the Rings, it was a game changer. And, suddenly fantasy writ large on the big screen, it worked. People loved it. I want this movie with just forget the money that was spent. But in terms of the ambition and the scope and what they're trying to achieve after Game of Thrones, I want something that can continue on with the legacy of great fantasy filmmaking on television. And it sounds like They nailed it. And who doesn't want something like this to succeed? I want this to be good, man.
If we could have, I remember we talked about George R.R. Martin a couple months ago, talking about how the fact that his new Game of Thrones series and the Lord of the Rings were coming up, and hearing George R.R. Martin said, I can't wait that both of these shows are going to be on TV at once.
Yeah.
How great would it be as a fantasy fan if we could have a really good Game of Thrones, which House of the Dragon is off to a great start, and a really good Lord of the Rings going at the same time?
I've always said we live in an embarrassment of riches. The time that for anybody who's a fan of genre, you know, whatever your jam is. I mean, there's great science fiction shows on TV. I mean, I might not love Star Trek, but we're getting great Star Trek. We got some great upcoming Star Trek coming next year. The fact that we get so much rich stuff, superheroes, fantasy shows, science fiction, I never thought we'd live in this day and age. But have it too? Dude, come on.
Chris, I don't personally know anybody who's been as excited for this show as yourself.
Vibrating.
Again, just reminding everybody, your dog is named Gimli, son of Gloin.
Yeah.
So you're hearing these reactions. What's your takeaway from everything we're hearing?
I'm so happy. When you were texting us last night, I was just like, yay, yay, yay. All of this is so good. Well, and to be fair, too, about the slow start, Tolkien starts slow.
Yeah.
It starts slow. And if you can give Dune that grace, too, of that world building, you can give this that grace, too, especially when you have lush visuals. I mean, come on. That's a piece of art. That's gorgeous. I am planning my meals for this. We are going to do full Hobbiton eats. Got to figure out what my 11sies is going to be. I'm
No, it'd
psyched.
be Harfeet.
Well, yeah, because they
no
have it.
Hobbit.
But
They don't
I'm pretty
exist
sure
in
they
this
had
age.
11sies.
Yeah.
Second breakfast and all.
I can have 11sies. I'm not beholden to this. And
Dinner
also,
and supper.
Yeah, all of it, all at once. But the thing I want to remind people about, too, just like I was saying with Clue, is if this show ends up not being your version of Lord of the Rings or that kind of world, go back to the books, go back to the movies. There's other media out there, so that if this isn't your jam, let it be somebody else's. You can dislike it, and when we have our after shows, maybe there'll be moments where we dislike it too. But it doesn't have to be something that continues to divide people too.
Well, I mean, yes. And already I know there are certain elements out there that are already writing. They've already pre-written 18 hit pieces and hate pieces on
People
even though they've
love
never
dying
seen
on
it yet.
hills these days.
This
They
is
just
very
love
true.
dying on hills.
I don't even want to walk up a hill, let alone die on
Well,
one.
I mean, the thing is, let's say that this wildly diverges from the original text. It's still within the confines of what it is, can be a great story.
Exactly.
You know, great example of that. I was talking with somebody else about this morning, which is this. You know what? I don't want to hear about, well, this diverges from this. You know why? Because as ungracious as we comic book people can be, it is pretty much acknowledged that one of the great comic book movies of all time is Civil War. It ain't got shit to do with the comic book.
Oh, yeah.
It takes so many liberties and diverges from the original comic so much. But you know what comic book fans did? Hey, that's fine. We've got the comic book.
Exactly.
The movie was great, even though it was wildly different from the comic book. And if, like, that's at the end of the day, that's all I care about. Judge material by its own merits. And listen, again, I loved the first episode of Obi-Wan, and I mean, there were moments of Obi-Wan for the rest of it that I enjoyed, but overall, I did not like Obi-Wan. I wish that I did, but you know what? But I'm judging it on its own merits, not by, well, Alec Guinness would have done this differently. Like, just judge it on its own merits. And if you don't like it on its own merits, like I didn't like Obi-Wan, that's totally fair. But just do then what Chris said. Say, you know what? I watched it. Didn't work for me. I thought this part didn't work and this part didn't work. And then once you've done that, let everybody else enjoy it and move on and go back to things you do like. I mean, does fandom have to be more complicated than that?
No.
If it didn't work for you, say, you know what? This didn't work for me and here's why. And then be done with it and move on and talk about things you do like.
Yeah, I mean, see, I've always approached everything because as a longtime fantasy sci-fi fan, I've read many science fiction books or fantasy novels that have been adapted. And sometimes the adaptations are wildly divergent. I mean, even the Foundation series that was on. The Foundation series is quite different than reading the books.
And I quite like the series.
I
thought it
did
was
too.
pretty damn good.
I did too. I'm like, okay, you take inspiration from it. So if this story gives us great, well-drawn characters and tells us a great story within this world, I can accept that. You know, but that's what I don't like is when I don't get great characters and a great story.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that will be the be all and end all. And by the way, we won't know for sure even with the first 2 episodes.
Right.
Like again, we've had other first episodes. I love the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You know how I feel about that show overall. Again, so we won't know in the first couple of episodes, but at least it sounds like it'll be off to a good start. And that's always a good thing. So I don't know. Question is for you guys. What do you think? I mean, so far the response is coming out, even from something like New York Post is saying, hey, we've been skeptical about this. We have not had a lot of high hopes for this, but we got to tell you, we thought it was great. I don't know. What do you think about what we're hearing? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave those thoughts there.